Welcome to another video from explainingcomputers.com. This time, and following many requests, I'm going to test the media playback performance of a number of different single-board computers. I'm going to do this by taking the same 1080p 30 frames a second file and playing it both locally on each board and also streaming it via YouTube. Specifically, the boards I'm going to test will be the Raspberry Pi 3 Model B+, the Odroid XU4, the original Latte Panda, the Latte Panda Alpha, the Cardass Vim2, the Rock 64, the NanoPi M4 and the Asus Tinkerboard. So, I thought we'd start with the Rolls-Royce of consumer SPCs, the Latte Panda Alpha. If our video doesn't play fine on this, we might as well go home. But if we go across to the desktop, here we are. I've got our sample file here, which we're using on all the different machines. If I just do properties on that and the details, you'll see it's a 1920 1080 file with a very decent data rate of about 31.5 megabits a second. So that's absolutely fine. And if we just play that, it'll come up in VLC Media Player, and you'll see this footage has got a variety of things in it. I've got some nature shots. I've also got the steam engine here playing away, which gives us something to have a constant motion to check it isn't leaping around, and a little bee there wandering up the screen. As expected, this is playing absolutely fine on the Latte Panda Alpha, so that's no problems at all. So if I just come out of this, I like watching that thing. Isn't that fantastic? Anyway, and there's a shot of me there, look, that's exciting, isn't it? Anyway, I'll come out of this, we'll quit that, and I'm sure the most significant tests for most of you are playing footage on YouTube. So we'll go to YouTube, where again, I'm sure this will work absolutely fine. Here's the footage, which should load in and play okay. It's HD, as we can see, and if we full screen that and do stats for nerds, there we are, it's playing current optimal res 1920 1080, drop frames, none out of this. Again, that's what we would expect on something like a Latte Panda Alpha. But this therefore gives us a benchmark. This shows us how the footage should play on a top-end SBC. And really this video is about seeing how close to this we can get on the other, far cheaper single-board computers. Right, I thought next we'd test the Raspberry Pi 3 Model B+, and as you can see I've got connected in here an Ethernet lead to give it a wired network connection. I'm going to do this on a lot of these boards because I don't want these tests to become a test of Wi-Fi performance but purely of media playback. So here we are on the desktop for the Raspberry Pi, my latest version of Raspbian. And being the latest version of Raspbian is significant because in November 2018, Raspbian was given a VLC Media Player as its default media player with hardware acceleration for playing back things like H.264 files. And I'd also want to note here to make things work best on the Pi for playing back video, I've gone into Raspberry Pi configuration and I've set under performance the GPU memory to be 128 megabytes. By default that is 64 megabytes, but if you put it to 128 you might get smoother media playback. So I'll cancel out of that, I'll have to reboot with my settings, but I'll now play the sample file, so we'll just click on it down here, it's having a little think, there we are, and if we play the file it'll come up in VLC Media Player and it'll play absolutely fine. The Raspberry Pi 3 Model B Plus can play 1920 1080 video at 30 frames a second beautifully. You'll see the dissolve there between the shots was absolutely fine. There's no problems with the traction engine in dropping frames. Again, a nice smooth mix there. So this works very well indeed. So let's try a YouTube playback. So we'll go to Chromium and that'll come up in a second. And that was pretty fast, wasn't it? And it's worth noting that by default on the Raspberry Pi, Chromium has got a little plugin installed called H.264ify, and this is designed to force YouTube to provide H.264 video, which is easier for a computer like the Pi to decode. That you'll see on many of the boards we're going to test. So let's play our video, which is there, and it'll come up in a second. There we are, and we'll flick it to full screen. Just have a little think, and it'll get there. As you see, it's got a little bit of stuttering going on here. Let's bring up our stats for nerds. There we are. And as you can see, there are dropped frames. I've gone and stopped it, haven't I? Never mind. There we are. And is having a problem there, and in fact it's not in 1080p here either. So let's put it up to 1080p to be fair to the other tests, and maybe take it back to the start and see how it does. And as you can see, there are drop frames. It is stuttering. The Pi will struggle to play 1920 1080 as you can see from YouTube like this. However, it is worth noting that if we get rid of this, come out of Chromium, let's have the Pi catch up with us. Come on Pi, we want to go out of this. There we are. What we can do is go to a VLC media player, and if we go to a VLC, you will notice here under media we can go open network stream, and you can paste in here a YouTube address. I've done it already for this video. I press play on that. That will play, and it's playing, as you can see, much better. That's giving us nice smooth playback. Now it's not actually playing at a full resolution. If we come out of that and go to tools and codec information, you'll see it's actually picking it up at 720p, but even so it's giving us a nice smooth playback. So if you use VLC Media Player, you can get decent at least 720p playback on the Raspberry Pi from YouTube. So I thought we'd go next to the Tinkerboard, a bit more powerful SBC than the Raspberry Pi. So let's go to the Tinker OS desktop. Here we are, and we'll play our sample clip. Got it down there. It'll come up in the Tinkerboard's own media player. We have to click up there and then full screen down there. And as you can see, that's playing absolutely fine. Nice smooth fade there between the different images, and hopefully do it again in a second. Yes, there's no problem playing back a local file on the Tinkerboard. And therefore we should move to the web, what we can do in YouTube. Let's launch up Chromium, nice and nippy on the Tinkerboard. I think, was that our clip, hopefully? Yes, it was, I think. And here it is coming up. Looks to be playing reasonably well. Let's just take that to a full screen. Bring up the old Stats for Nerds. I want the Stats for Nerds, everybody. Where's it gone? There we are. Stats for Nerds is down there. And actually, we're not in the 1080p, are we? Let's go back over here. I'll get it right in a second. There we are. Let's go over here and get this. Oh, it is 1080p. There we are. So it's playing 1080p, and it's not doing too bad. I mean, I think it's looking a bit better than the Pi, but there are clearly drop frames, as we can see up there. And oh, that was quite a large. That wasn't good, was it? Yes, it's going okay, but it's a break up there. It's not ideal. So let's come out of this, and we'll go back to the desktop. And I'll just try the trick we tried last time with the Pi with a VLC media player, which I've got installed here. We'll launch that, and we'll go to media and open a network stream, and it's there, and we'll play that. And this I don't think will be as good as the Pi. It isn't as good as the Pi, I guess, because this isn't hardware optimized, whereas the Pi one was. And I should say today, I have had quite a lot of problems getting the Tinkerboard to be this good. The Tinkerboard is an interesting single board computer, great hardware, always been let down by its software. I've tried the latest version of Tinker OS this afternoon to record this clip, couldn't get any audio. I went back to a previous version. It's still not ideal. It's a shame. I really like the Tinkerboard, but I have to admit, at least based on today's test, and it's just one test, it isn't playing media, at least from YouTube, streaming media, as well as we might desire. So, I thought we'd next look at the Cardass Vim 2, which is a single board computer also sold as a media player in a case like this. And if you want to know what the board looks like, it looks like this, as you could see in my video all about the Vim 2. And indeed, I should have said I've got review videos of every single board computer you can see in this video, links in the video description. Anyway, let's go to the desktop, which you can see is Android, which is the default operating system pre-installed on the Vim 2. So let's first of all play a local file, go to that one and there. And no, I don't want to resume, I want to play from the start. Show us the whole video, and that's playing absolutely fine. dissolve there is absolutely fine. As on the other boards, playing local files really isn't a problem on the Vim 2. Everything looks really nice indeed. So let's come out of that. Let's go back to the Android little desktop there. And as you can see, I've got a YouTube app installed. So let's bring up YouTube. There was a video on YouTube. No, I don't want to go premium. Not quite now. Thank you. And this is all set to play in, yes, what's the quality? It's going to be 1080p. We'll just make sure we've got that. And we'll full screen this and play it. And hopefully that's pretty good, isn't it? That's rather good. 1080p playback. So the Cardass Vim 2 specializes as being a media player, and you can see why. Gives us very, very good YouTube playback at 1080p using the Android YouTube app. So very impressed with that. That's matching the quality we saw on my Latte Panda Alpha. So I think very good YouTube playback on the Cardass Vim 2. So let's now turn our attention to the original Latte Panda. This remains the cheapest single board computer I think it can run Windows 10, and this is the 2GB RAM, 32GB storage model. So on the Windows 10 desktop, let's play our file, and it'll come up. Oh, and a Windows Media Player. That's a bit of a shock, isn't it, to use a Windows one, but there you are. I'm sure it'll work. And yes, there's no problem at all. We can play that. That transition was smooth, and hopefully next one will be as well, and Windows will get rid of its controls. Yes, that works absolutely fine, as we would anticipate. We've got a common story going on with this, haven't we? So let's go to Google Chrome and test out YouTube playback. And here we are. Let's go to the file. And it's having a little think, and let's full screen it. Having a think again. It is, after all, Windows 10 running and 2GB of RAM, so it's got reason to have a little think, but there we are. Check it's in, oh no it isn't, we want it in 1080p, and we want stats for nerds, don't we? And we want to go back to the start. Let's do all of that lot, and it'll settle down and show us what it can do. So, does not too bad. That was nice and smooth transition. There is a drop frame there, a few more drop frames. Not doing too bad, it's dropping here and there, but not too badly. I'm quite impressed with this actually. This is pretty good, isn't it? Yes, that was a smooth transition. That's pretty usable. I think that's a pretty good result for the Latte Panda 232. Some drop frames, but not too bad. But we will also test out, just for completeness, what it can do in the VLC Media Player. Bring in a stream. Let's go over here. We're getting a little rhythm to these now, aren't we? Let's go to a media and open network stream, and there's the video. This will be back in 720p, I'm sure, but let's just full screen that, and again that plays fine. So clearly you've got pretty good media performance, including stream media performance, on the original Latte Panda. Right. I thought we'd go next to the Rock 64, a nice little single board computer, great value. It's a bit like a Raspberry Pi with USB 3 port, and you can get 2 and 4 GB of RAM on these boards, which is really nice. So here we are on a Debian desktop, so we'll try to play our sample file, which is over here. Go on, and that's not so good, isn't it? If you've been wondering why I've been trying all these local playbacks on these other boards, you can see why this one here doesn't work. And so we'll try going to the Chromium browser and looking in YouTube. Give it a second just to run up. There it is. And here we are, and we'll just go to the file. Come on, you can do it. It's having a think, isn't it? Go on. Well, there we are. It's come up, and we'll just full screen that if we can. Yes, it's getting there. And go on, play. It's struggling a bit, isn't it? Can we do our stats for nerds? Stats for nerds is coming up, although I don't think, to be honest, we need it, do we? There are clearly issues playing either locally or stream YouTube files. So I don't think we should be put off entirely by that. Software can be a big issue. So I think what we should do is to try moving to Android. So I'll say abracadabra, and here we are in the YouTube app in Android on the Rock64. So let's see if we can play our file, see how it does. Can it improve? And oh yes, most certainly that looks really good, doesn't it? That's very good playback. We can't actually see drop frames and things in the Android app, but clearly this is playing at 1080p. You can see from the resolution, at least I can, looking at it firsthand, and that's impressive. Very good playback of YouTube in the Android app on the Rock64. So let's just flick back to the desktop here. We don't call it a desktop with Android, do we? I don't care what we call it, home screen, whatever it is. Let's go to the File Explorer. I just want to bring up a local file on our USB drive. It's plugged in, it's down there, and yes, that plays fine as well. It was likely to, given that YouTube played a second ago. So there we are. We have got a very good media playback of a 1080p footage on the Rock64, but only in Android. So, our penultimate board is this one, the NanoPi M4, an RK3399 base SPC, quite a powerful little board with 4 USB 3 ports no less. So let's go over to its desktop, which is here Lubuntu, and we'll try to play our clip, but I know from my previous tests of this board not that long ago that this will struggle. We have the audio, we don't have the video, and I think we might as well therefore leave that there. And we'll also try in a Chromium, doing the YouTube test. We've got the file there. This may do a little better, I think. Let's just full screen that. There we are. Are we in full HD? No, we need to go to 1080p, and we need to go to see our stats for nerds, don't we? Let's go back to the front as well, do the whole lot. And how is this doing? Having a little think, and it ain't brilliant, is it? It's the Steam engine is very much struggling down there, a lot of drop frames. This is not ideal, so I think as we did for the Rock64, we'll shift across into Android. And here we are in Android 8 on the NanoPi M4, very nice responsive version of Android, but sadly it doesn't have the Play Store and it doesn't have the YouTube app pre-installed either, so I can't, without a lot of messing around, and even then I couldn't guarantee it, actually run a YouTube on this to do that YouTube streaming test. But we do have a video player, so we can play that and click our sample clip, and let's play it from the beginning. And this plays fine, although as you might have noticed there's no audio. That's not a technical issue with me. I can't get HDMI audio to work out of this. And sadly, although it's playing beautifully, lovely smooth dissolve there, we're not filling the screen. And I can't fix that either, because although there's lots of settings here to do all sorts of exciting things, including 4:3 playback, I can't get it to fill the screen. So I have to admit right now that the NanoPi M4 is a great piece of RK3399 based single board computer hardware, but it's not something I would recommend with current software to use as a media player. Our final board on test here is the Odroid XU4, which is one of my favourite single board computers. I don't quite know why. Maybe it's the blue heatsink, maybe the fact it's running Ubuntu Mate, I don't know. Anyway, let's try playing our video clip. And here we are. Let's full screen properly, and down there. That is clearly not working well, is it? We've got progress. Bits of audio we can hear as well, but that clearly isn't working. That's not a good start for the Odroid XU4. So let's run up the Chromium browser. Oh, and it wants me to... don't you just hate it when the Linux distros get too clever themselves? Just let us in. We want to play the sample clip. And we'll... full screen that. There we are. There we aren't. This really is not a responsive system in Chromium. and we want to make sure we're in make sure we're properly in 1080p, and we want some stats for nerds, and we'll go back to the start as well, see how we're doing. And I don't think you need me to tell you that clearly this is struggling. Lots of dropped frames. This is not ideal playback either. I guess this is quite a heavy distro to be using on this board. This is the one that they supplied on the eMMC Flash for me, but this is clearly not the best media playback. So as with the past two boards, let's go across into Android, and here we are. So we can play the file. I'm in the video player in Android on the Odroid XU4, and that's playing fine, although we are actually seeing this at a 720p because I can't get this operating system to go into 1080p, which is a shame, although it looks pretty good. So it's we have got video playback there, but there we are. Let's come out of that. Unfortunately again though, we don't have installed here either the Play Store or the YouTube app, so I can't test this on the Odroid XU4 in Android. So this is finished on a bit of a negative, isn't it? The last two boards haven't performed as well as I thought they would. So there we are. We've come to the end of our testing, so I think it's now time to draw some conclusions. So, what have we learnt? Well, for a start, we proved once again that software is just as important as hardware when it comes to media playback on an SBC. More specifically, I've done this table to summarise our results, and I'd highlight 3 boards. For a start, the Latte Panda Alpha is clearly a great SBC media player, but it's also far more expensive than the other boards here, so it's not my top pick. Secondly, I was very surprised by performance on the Raspberry Pi 3B Plus. Now that it's got VLC media player with hardware accelerated playback, it's great for at least 720p playback from YouTube, so if you're prepared to paste your links into VLC and watch YouTube at 720p, the Raspberry Pi 3 is a great value board. This said, my top pick has to be the ROC 64. It couldn't play things back at its standard desktop operating system, but in Android we had great playback of both local video and streaming from YouTube, so this has to be my top pick as a great value media playback SBC. The one proviso I would note is that the ROC 64 doesn't have onboard Wi-Fi, so you'll have to add a dongle for that if you can't connect via Ethernet, but other than that, the ROC 64 is clearly the winner here. But now that's it for another video. If you've enjoyed what you've seen here, please press that like button. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, and I hope to talk to you again very soon.